the staircase that comes up at the corner of Vermont and 20th. And then this is the lawn area. And you can see the walkway. You probably can't see it, but there's right here is the walkway. And the trees are here. And they're quite large, so they kind of occupy that space. And the grass is relatively flat. And then it slopes down. You can see the yellow lines represent the grade. So in this scheme, if this was lowered and that there was improved access here, this would be the point that the walkway and the park is about the same level. This area is actually lower, and this actually is a little bit higher. And then we would be capturing, so this is the current line of the play area, and so now we're capturing this area. This becomes the green play space. This becomes all older children zone, and this is younger children. And I just grabbed Walter Haas Park. We have that. This is Walter Haas Park at the same scale. So we had a swing and the play structure, and then we had the older children. So it could actually be a bit larger.
Same scale, is that?
Yeah. Well, only because we expanded it. Yeah, it's a 16 scale. And so, and then also, I've taken the walkway here that comes across and moved it so the staircase wouldn't go over here. There's actually one tree. But that would be maybe the place for the slides, because then you could actually drop down about 12 feet onto the slope. So you could go from this point all the way down. And this would be a good spot because it could back. So you have an entry here, more old children or older kids, faster activity, more movement back and forth onto the lawn, and then you have the smaller children with this relationship, and they're sort of separated from the slides. So maybe they have a little climbing wall or something on their side, but this would be built up and then it would be working down. So they're not even that aware of the slides from the children's point. So this is one thought.
Is that what you said, 116 or 110?
This is one, I'm sorry, this is 10 scale. And that's 16, so yeah, you got it. It was on the, I made this.
Is there any
It's this.
accommodation for skateboarding?
No.
Like one for that old kid?
No, that's Walter Haas. You got it. You got me. I made a mistake.
It's like, wow, it seems bigger.
Yeah. However, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's what happens when you're like.
I have one thought about the slides or questions, I guess, in relation to your thought about the slides. If they're right on that slope, what I suspect is that could be problematic for neighbors. And I actually think it could be interesting to put slides that are really more adult and the bigger kids, activating that area. Because then noise transfer, if you are going to be the crazy tourist or the crazy, I'm older kid, going down at night, you're not bugging the neighbors, and you're also reducing gang activity.
Here.
No, off the back end.
On the
like,
crosshatches. Past the trees, down that big slope.
In this, here, grabbing that.
Where it's eroding. Where it's eroding, yeah.
Otherwise, you go right into the dog.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's noise and it's activity where the dogs are. That's not the best mix. So that probably is a better relationship. That's a good.
Although the reason to have, you could have the slides there because then you could monitor them. It's highly visible from the street. The police could just drive by and go, oh, there's
But I don't
teenagers
think
hanging out on the
The
slides.
slide usage though, it's not so much illicit activity as it is noisy and bothersome to the neighbors, which, so you move that to the back, you drive away homeless and illegal activity, because they're noisy and they're watching, or could watch you, but you're not looking so back there.
If that area of the back is somewhat level to have the other part, won't that make it maybe invisible? What we see that if we were to put
There's
slides on the
an
slope.
18-foot difference between the upper area and what would be the.
Yeah, but then below that, isn't there a possibility for a leveled area where there's going to be the off-leash dog park? So we'll be able to see what's going on,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
So if that was occurring here,
Yeah.
yeah, so you'd see it. So I mean, people will be around
yeah,
to be able to see what's going on.
you
and access, yeah.
that, yeah, both would be visible.
It'd also give you more area for the other play area further
So you're suggesting is that it's occurring here somewhere?
past the trees, from the trees down the slope.
Yeah.
In this area?
Extend down the
Yeah, I was
side.
actually thinking not necessarily visible from the street, because I don't need to watch people slide. I think they're probably having harmless fun.
It's where it's eroded, because we lived there as kids anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, what if it's part of the circulation axis that crosses with the dog path? It goes on down beyond the flat area that you've created. That's a great idea, flat area. In other words, you're making a cross axis that goes all the way from the stair to the
So
southwest.
from here to here.
And on down below that,
Could continue if
Yeah.
you wanted, but.
Well, okay.
just like the photograph that we have there. for
Yeah.
Significant size.
Well, I think that's a,
Pretty big
that's
slide.
probably 30, that's about 40 feet.
John, didn't the city just build a huge park over by Safeway so that the older kids could go there? And this is for small children, and the older kids go, they spent millions of dollars over there. And this thing,
You're talking about Franklin Square?
yeah, this thing, you're exploding this thing where you've got the same thing, 4 blocks away. That makes,
Well, I think there's
It's more than
5,000.
I can attest, it's more than 4 blocks. We do go there, but one of the big differences is if you have children who span ages, you lose, this park is just really for just little kids.
Right now.
And we'd like to stay in the neighborhood.
but it's a small park. You guys are talking like this is, in New York, this is not this huge park. It's a little park.
In fact, we're talking about right now, that playground is here, and in this scheme, it's a wedge of about a quarter, maybe a little less than a quarter more. So I think it's about rearranging and utilizing the space better.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that 5 acres of use land. It's not 5 acres of useful land.
That's the intent, is to grab something else.
What is any figures on when they put in a big slide, is that gonna make it a tourist magnet? I mean, we don't want a lot of people driving. One thing I like when people buy a house and get one.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that we have to debate. I would think it would encourage people, it would make it a little more of a destination. I'm going to move on because I think we're going to try to adjourn here in a couple of minutes. Another scheme is, and I'm going to upset a lot of people here, but I'm just going to throw it out there.
How dare you?
You could lower this, the whole thing. You'd have to take out all the trees, and you would grow, about 12 feet. Because as you drop down, it moves out. And so, you have the potential to capture a lot more space here, and you have the potential to capture space closer to the road on either side. So you have the opportunity to do that. And maybe that's a pie in the sky idea, or it's something that, given all the other issues, is not of interest.
John, you got a 10-minute warning.
Okay. Thank you. Yes?
John, where do we take my father-in-law who's in a wheelchair to just kind of mosey him around the park? Where does my niece go, like on her scooter? On her scooter? Be nice.
So,
Like 2-year-old scooters, you see the
okay,
kids?
let's one at a time. So clearly there was no interest in that one.
No, that's not
Just had to
true.
throw it
No,
out there.
no, that's not true. That's not true. Are we putting it to vote?
Well, I think I'm just looking for feedback.
Okay, I'm interested in that. I don't understand why you would level the grassy area and not level the playground too. I think if you're gonna do one, you might as well do both.
Yeah,
The trees that you're gonna lose are gonna be gone in 20 years anyway, so I think it makes sense for one.
Yeah, so replanting
Yeah.
would be until the appropriate, part of the reforestation plan we were
Yeah.
talking about. So that's not very cost effective.
Winds are very marginal for the amount of money that we
No,
spend.
no.
You said what was that?
I think it doesn't seem very cost effective. It seems like the amount of money that we spend is very marginal, would be quite large for fairly marginal winds.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I agree.
12 feet along that stretch, you'd spend an awful lot of money to do it. So it's probably not the
And we have one.
I'm gonna jump back to Joyce's question about, if this plan was to be advanced, how would, and so what we're talking about is creating a level area, providing an access pathway that doesn't have steps, and is maybe generally 5%, there might be a couple little ramps at 8%. For the most part, it's going to be comfortable walkway. So how would you be able to navigate the park? So depending on the scheme, so if you were able to capture a little more space, I'm going to go back to the first alternative here in terms of the upper area. So what we would be able, let's say we did lower this section and left that alone, then we would improve the connection point here. So you would come across, you would enter the park here, you could stroll around the green, you could come over to this point, but you would then encounter stairs. You could come down to this side, the south part of the green lawn, and then you would enter into a path that would traverse the slope. And it would traverse the slope from this point all the way across 160 feet is what you need to get from here to here without having stairs and putting it into a ramp. So 160 feet is quite long. But you would go 160 feet, gradually dropping down, and you would meet right here. And so you would also have a connection across to the sidewalk at this point. So you'd be able to go all the way to here. You could go down to this area. You could go down the main path some distance. But if it stays as mulch, it might be difficult. But if we made this like a vehicular accessible point and had a turnaround somewhere right around here, get to that point, and then you can come back and you can navigate all of that. So that would be a way of really increasing the ease of movement, and it's also for bicycles, it's tricycles, it's wheelchairs, it's all those uses.
Where's the current back stairway? Where's the back side of the little thing here? On that drawing?
Let me down here.
Yeah, they're not contiguous stairways over there.
No,
This,
it's the one just that leads up, right? Leads up right to the picnic table.
You need the access road?
there's a picnic table here.
Right.
Those stairs.
Yeah, there's a
Stairs
stair.
there.
Yeah, right there.
No, from the bottom, from the middle path.
If we did this path,
You're talking to timber stairs?
this doesn't
Yeah, timber
exist.
stairs. They're timber.
I'm afraid
Oh, they go between the two circles. They go southwest. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. That would be probably an area that would be affected. Okay. I think we,
Yeah, this is probably a good time to go to next steps.
yeah. So the next step is, so we're going to come back with looking to developing this scheme further with the comments that we've heard and the priorities that we've gleaned from tonight. And it'll be more illustrative. And then we will put some really rough cost estimates to it. And we will then look at how we can break it into maybe some different scenarios. So like you could do this scenario is a way it could be built. This is a scenario it could be way, and the costs associated with that. So that we kind of paint a picture of how we can go forward.
So how do we know what is considered a priority right now? I mean, there's been some things shouted out, and some people have said some things, but I don't know what you think are taking from this is a priority.
I think, Chris, that's a good point. I think what we're going to do with John and Maria, as we've been discussing some online surveys that we might generate, from the discussion tonight, I kind of pulled out some priorities that seem to be hot topics. Bathrooms and changing room, soils and toxics in the soil, and safety and security issues. So I think what we'll do is start generating some of those ideas, and then come back to the third meeting. And then once the plan is developed, then we can get feedback from you about what your priorities are. We'll take those priorities and then generate a survey and post that online. But again, that's in development.
I want to just say, if you're going to survey us on priorities, it very much matters to me what budget you're, like, I need budget assumption. Because
Right,
if I
and-
know I have
yes.
X amount, then I prioritize very differently.
Right, yeah, so I think that as part of as time goes on and this plan develops, then we'll come back to you. And John will be developing a